Now, this is another thing that I want to talk about. This is actually a deep kind of conversation for a little bit, but
Yeah.
very surprising. Tommy Dreamer.
Oh Lord.
We know about Tommy Dreamer.
Good old Tommy Dreamer.
House of Hardcore, like I said, we in Philly, we see Tommy Dreamer all the time.
Yeah, Tommy Dreamer welcome to you at House of Hardcore and Icons like ain't nothing.
Ain't nothing. or Comic-Con. I swear I see Tommy Dreamer in Dunkin' Donuts before getting coffee.
You ask my man for a picture, he's like, oh no, don't pay me, it's fine. I'm a regular person. I'm like, oh alright, bro.
Very, very nice guy. Should retire 20 years ago. Now, there was an article that came out when he was on his podcast, I think it was, or if he was on somebody else's podcast, where he came out and said that he was dealing with depression and mental illness. And I have to say, this year alone, I have talked about on both podcasts, from this wrestling podcast, No Gimmicks, Needed Wrestling podcast, and Nerdgasm Talk podcast, of suicide.
Mm-hmm. And
people taking their own lives because of the things that are truly bothering them. So once again, I will put this out there that this is our opinions of talking about this, and if you guys, if it's people out there who do need help, or do need a safe space, there will be things in the links down below for those people who need it. If as we talk about this topic, but once again, we're talking about a Tommy Dreamer, of things that he said he was dealing with, and he was saying that he opened up on his House of Hardcore podcast. He said he almost committed a real murder-suicide shooting in the middle of WrestleMania X7 in Houston, Texas. WrestleMania X7 was noted as the best WrestleMania to date, still to this date.
Yeah,
it was the first WrestleMania to go 4 hours. It was also the last WrestleMania to host the Attitude Era. This was the end of the Attitude Era, before we went to the whole invasion thing. And this is the first one. The first WrestleMania, Jerry the King Lawler was not on commentated. It was Paul Heyman. So, the story goes, as is reading here, that Tommy Dreamer was supposed to debut with WWE during the TLC match at the show, but plans had changed. And, plus the recent closing of ECW, that didn't help at all either, because this closed last week, and then not last week, the 2000 that year. So, Tommy Dreamer found himself living back with his parents. So he turned out big money offers to stay with a failing company where the booker was secretly collecting checks from one of the same companies he told Tommy to turn down, pushed him too far. So, when he finally hit rock bottom, because they didn't want to use him at WrestleMania X7, and then
Well, I heard a story that they were supposed to use him, but something happened where they didn't use him.
Yeah, they didn't. And first of all, honestly...
Oh, that's what it was. He was supposed to debut that day, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. WrestleMania of all things, right? So...
Yeah, he's supposed to do something with the hardcore title, I believe, or something like that. Yeah.
But he didn't. And he said that his solution to his problems was he's going to utilize Texas... he was going to jump the rails at WrestleMania, murder Paul Heyman, and then kill himself.
That's wild, bro.
I was like, wait, did he admit this? So, because honestly, if I was Paul Heyman right now, I'd be somewhere like, oh my god.
He probably already talked to him about it.
I pulled up his comments. He made some further comments about it.
Okay. Do you have the comments up right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was saying, after he said that, and of course everybody's all up in arms like, oh my god, why would you say that? So he went to Busted Open Radio, and he said he discussed. It says he discussed his eyebrow raising comments by saying it's okay to have a sad day. It's okay, but you have to fight through it. I then talked about a moment in my head where life wasn't good for me. I'm not going to go into it because I don't hate Paul Heyman. When you're sitting up at night thinking all those horrible thoughts, you get lost in your own head. It was brought up to me by someone there's a big difference between being depressed and someone who fights depression. People who fight depression need help. I want to tell everyone the guy you see on TV gets depressed. And then he basically goes into how everything around him was still good, but he was out of it. He, body's here, but his mind is somewhere else. And he said that he wanted to come out and speak about it now because in the last 2 weeks, 2 people have killed themselves. And he was saying that for Ashley, she killed herself and he was supposed to meet with her the next day. So I'm sure that was probably really jarring. It's like you probably talked to this person right before they killed themselves and had no idea. And he was saying, talking about Lionheart, who killed himself, and he said he didn't know him, but he went into reading his last tweet and saying how you gotta reach out to people sometimes when they have cries for help, because his last tweet sounds like it was a cry for help. So, I mean, I get why he said it. Sometimes you gotta be raw like that to let people really know how hard it was. Because you could say to somebody, I was depressed, or I'm having a bad day right now, my mental health is not intact at the moment, but it doesn't really hit home unless you say something like, I was about to kill somebody and kill myself because I was that deep in depression. And I mean, I respect him for saying it, but that doesn't mean it's any less wild of a comment, like, to the thought of it. But I definitely respect him coming out and trying to get the message across that if you're depressed, like we've been saying in this podcast, last week's podcast, it's okay to ask for help, and to actually fight being depressed if you have it in you, because some people don't. But I'm just sitting here like, bruh, you really came out. The first thing somebody said was, well, no Hall of Fame for him. It's like, damn, y'all, I should hope that they don't be like, we'll never put him in a Hall of Fame now because he decided to speak out about a struggle he had how many years ago. I mean, things happen. Life still goes on. Everything is not sports entertainment.
You're right. Yeah, he went into. I have the comment right here how in detail that he was going to go down and do this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he had that in detail.
He had a whole plan.
And quick question, that I'll tell you what I wanted to do. It's sick that I think this at WrestleMania. I was going to hop the rail and I was going to whack Paulie in the back of the head right at the announcer table. Then I was going to whack myself, the ultimate martyr. I was going to hit my post, hit my pose, crack, boom, pull the trigger, because I was that insane. Don't know if I would have went through with it, but that's what I was thinking about every day. I was like, I will go down in history. Pop, boom, hit first. They think it was an angle until I shot him. I was so severely depressed and so mental with rage, I needed help. And you know what, now, now obviously, he said, but what changed that day was a call from Jim Ross. And then he said, rarely I get a phone call from a number I didn't know. I didn't pick it up. I remember having these thoughts and it was bad. I had a gun. I was pissed. I guess as we were saying, man, could you think about the horribleness that I would have done for my legacy? I would have ruined WrestleMania, which I love WrestleMania for everybody. These thoughts were so crazy in my head. How dare that person? He screwed my parents over, and I come from a mobster mentality. In my head, I was like, I will become famous, which is famous for the wrong reason. I'm glad I didn't do it. But when that phone call came from Jim Ross again, just said, leave a message. It said, hey Tommy, it's Jim Ross. Just want to let you know we are still thinking about you. We are going to get it done. Just got to hang tight. Thank you. So it's amazing how some little things can trigger people, and how some little things can switch it all around. Now, granted, you get sometimes you get people who get these kind of messages every single day, and it just does not, do much. But there are some that that we may not know about the suicides that we prevented because of the things that we have said indirectly we don't even know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
all that from a voicemail.
Off of voicemail. It shows how powerful, that the thing is, especially when you're leaning on the edge. And I'm just like, imagine what WrestleMania would have been like now if that would have happened. Or
it might not be one.
It may not be one. And then you sit there and think, and then you look down the line at Chris Benoit. And we see how infamous he has gotten. And he's known for the wrong reasons.
Yep. And there are people who don't even know wrestling who know who he is because of what he did. And he
changed the whole landscape of how things are even done in wrestling right now. Done the whole landscape, because that hit home right there. And also that we see, like I said on my Nerd Games Talk podcast, suicide is one of the number one deaths in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
But that act of what Chris Benoit did, it changed the whole, changed the whole landscape. And I really think that, seriously, when it comes to these athletes that take these contact sports, it really needs to be looked at seriously for mental health or the CTE. Now you gotta get help for these guys who putting their bodies out there on the line for you to help you make a buck. You have got to, especially like you can't just push it to the side.
Yeah, because even if they don't have CTE, it could very well be a situation like this where one minute you're on the top of the world and you're living the dream, something you might have dreamed about since you were a kid, and then all of a sudden they don't need you anymore, and you're just at the bottom of the pile. So you sitting home waiting for somebody to call you, or you sit in the back every week and spending money you may not have to travel, but you're not doing anything. You're just collecting the check. So it could very well be, it could be a number of things. So I agree they do need to get these guys help, because it's like I'm putting myself through all of this to keep your company afloat. Because if you don't need me next week, you just not gonna care. You can throw me away. So I mean, let people know they're not disposable.
You're right.